Oh, hello everyone. I'm so glad you could join me for today's bistro style dessert. I'm making Poires Belle Hélène. This is a plated dessert that's composed of a crème anglaise, which I'll then turn into a chocolate crémeux, and you serve that with beautifully poached pears, a sprinkling of almonds, and you will be the hit of your next dinner party. That's right, I'm making Poires Belle Hélène. To start off this composed dessert, I'm going to make the crème anglaise and the crémeux at the same time because a crémeux is made from the crème anglaise. So the first thing I'll do is heat my cream, and I want to infuse some vanilla into it. I'm using what we call half and half cream or 10% cream, so that's what you need to look for in your milk fat content, 10% cream. And what I'm going to do is scrape the seeds out from a vanilla bean. Now, when you're shopping for vanilla beans, there's no way you can handle it, of course, before you purchase it, unless someone's assisting you and they can show you. But if you buy it and you find your vanilla bean is brittle or cracks, then it's dried out and old. A vanilla bean should be pliable and flexible. And immediately, even before you cut into it, it should smell like vanilla. So what I'm going to do is take a paring knife and run down the length of the bean and then split it open. That bending of the vanilla bean also kind of loosens the seeds within it. So when it's time to extract, you'll find you can really pull all the seeds out. So I'm using the back of my paring knife to gently scrape, not too firmly, the vanilla bean, and look at that. Oh, just beautiful. That's going right into the milk. I'll get every little bit I can out. There we go. And I'm going to save the bean itself to put in my pear poaching liquid. So we're layering the flavor. To draw the vanilla flavor out into the cream, the small cooking time it takes to cook the custard, the crème anglaise with the eggs and the sugar is too short to really draw the flavor out. So I put it on the heat to warm up first. And I'll give the cream a little whisk just to get those seeds worked in there. And now we've got the two-step process happening. We've got the vanilla flavor cooking into the cream and heating the cream, so when we do add the eggs and sugar, it will cook quickly without overcooking the eggs. I've separated my 4 egg yolks. That's what it takes for that volume of cream, for a nice rich, thick but not too thick crème anglaise. And I will add to that my sugar, and I'll give that a little whisk. There we go. Now you don't want to do this step, mixing your sugar and egg yolks too close to, I'm saying it's opposite day today. You don't want to mix your egg yolks and sugar too far before you're ready to start making your custard, because the sugar will actually create these almost cooked like granules. It's not cooking the egg yolks, but the egg yolks kind of gum up around the sugar granules if you do it too far ahead. So within about 5 minutes of you making the custard, but no longer than that. I'm going to set that aside, and while my cream is heating, I might as well get the pears going. Because this is a composed dessert, you want to have all your elements lined up and timed. What I love about this dessert, and why, no wonder it's so popular in French bistros, is that you can make each element ahead of time. The crème anglaise, the crémeux, or if you're doing a traditional Poires Belle Hélène, you're using a chocolate sauce, and poaching the pears. And they're all done ahead of time. You can even toast the almonds ahead of time. So in my mind, this is a perfect dinner party dessert because all the work is done ahead of time. All you have to do is assemble it when you're ready to serve. Okay, those pears. I'm gently heating my water here. And I just want to show you here. The poaching liquid for pears is a simple syrup. So that means equal parts water and sugar by volume. So I've got my water already in the pot, and I'll add my sugar, and I'll add the reserved vanilla bean. You can already see some speckles cooking out, and that bean has so much flavor, it will flavor this syrup. Additionally, in order to keep your poached pears a nice bright color, you need to add acidity. So I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of lemon juice to this liquid. There we go. And the water has been heating, so I can give it a quick stir. And you want to bring your simple syrup up to a simmer. Before you add the pears, it could be any temperature. But when I add the pears, I want to control the temperature to a poach. And I'll talk about that when I add the pears. So I want to get this syrup going. So it's not going to look like much now. Let me turn up my heat. And look at that. My cream has started steaming. You don't need to bring it to a full simmer or boil before you use it. But I'm ready to go. And I can smell the vanilla. So now the next step, before I get to actually cooking the custard, is to temper. So I'm evening the temperatures. I have cool eggs and sugar, and I have hot milk. If I add it too quickly to the eggs, I risk overcooking it. So I'll just pour in a little at a time. The first couple of additions, you want to be quite gradual about it. And now that I've warmed up my egg base, I can switch and add it all at once to the remaining hot cream. Get all that good thickening egg yolk in there. And now I'll return this to the heat, medium heat, and give it a whisk. It depends on your burner, but it can take really just about 3 minutes to cook. And you want to whisk it constantly because it is eggs and they will want to cook at the bottom of the pot if you don't keep it moving. If you're using a probe thermometer, you want to cook your creme anglaise to a minimum of 165. I like to take it to 180 Fahrenheit. That way I know I've maximized the thickening power of the yolks, but I'm not overcooking them. If you're going by a visual cue, what you can do is insert a spoon or spatula into the custard when you think you're close to being done. And this is the way you're taught in cooking school. If you draw a line down the spoon or spatula and the custard doesn't come together, so it leaves a clean line, then you know the eggs have thickened enough. I feel like I'm getting very close here. I'll bring it back over to my work area, and I just want to do that little spoon spatula test. So insert a spoon, draw a line. See, it's a nice clean line. It is fully cooked. Because crème anglaise is one of the star elements of Poires Belle Hélène, you want to make sure you strain it. So I'll do that first. Vanilla bean seeds are so small that even when you strain them, they fit through the strainer so you don't lose that beautiful speckle. And as this slowly cools, there's still more flavor infusing into the custard. Now, typically this makes 2 cups. You've got your 1.5 cups of liquid, the cream, plus the egg yolks and the sugar, that you end up with a volume of 2 cups, 500 ml. So this is where the crémeux comes into play. So all a crémeux is, for as fancy as it sounds, is warm crème anglaise poured over chocolate and then stirred together. And what this results in is a silky custard that sets up beautifully. It melts on the tip of your tongue. It's not as intense, nor is it as thick as a ganache, but you can use it as a filling for a tart, a cake, but it is so elegant that it can be used as one of the elements of Poires Belle Hélène. So I'm going to measure 1 cup out. So half of this creme anglaise while it's hot and pour it over my dark couverture baking chocolate. You want to make sure you're using baking chocolate, not just commercial chocolate chips. I'll let that sit for a second, and I might as well transfer my creme anglaise to a smaller bowl so it fits in the fridge very well. There we go. What's fantastic about this recipe, because of the nice even proportions, if you just simply want to make crema, perhaps to serve a cannelle of it with some fresh berries, just cut the creme anglaise recipe in half and then add that to your chocolate, and that's all you need. Well, yeah, of course, make your creme anglaise too. All right, my whisk. Bring that same whisk back. When I make a ganache, because I'm adding such a high fat content cream to my chocolate, I tend to stir gently with a spatula. But because I've got this cooked custard, and it is a smaller amount of chocolate proportionately than a ganache, which is why it's a little milder tasting, you can just whisk it. And as soon as all that chocolate is melted, you know you're done. Oh, doesn't that look luscious? There we go. So we've got our crema, our creme anglaise, which you want to give them a few minutes to cool on the counter. And then I like to chill them first uncovered, because if you cover them and if there's any condensation, you don't want that dripping into the custard or the cream. But once they're cooled beyond room temperature, then you can cover them. So that way you can stack them in the fridge, make these both easily a day, 2 days ahead of time. So I'll set these off to the side, and it's time to bring our poaching liquid up to a full simmer. I'll just give it a quick little stir just so that you can see that sugar is dissolving. And I should note, I'm using simply water and sugar and a little lemon juice plus the vanilla bean. But it is very common to use white wine in place of the water. If you use red wine in place of the water, you'll tint those pears a beautiful red color. And if you just leave them to sit for a few hours in the fridge, they'll be red on the outside but still pale in the center. Or if you let them sit overnight in the red wine syrup, that color will absorb all the way through. I can hear my pear syrup is coming along very nicely. I wanted to talk about the pears for a second. When you poach pears, you want to use a firm pear. If you use a ripe pear, it's going to be too soft and it'll start breaking down in the simple syrup before it has actually cooked. So it depends on the variety, what color it might be. And what I do is I peel the outside, and for a dessert like this, I like leaving the stem intact. So I have allotted 1 full pear per person. You cut it in half and then simply use a melon baller to scoop out the core and the stem end, or the base of the pear, sorry, the flower end, not the stem end. And that little connecting piece can disappear too. Now sometimes, it depends on the pear variety, that the piece that connects the stem to the core in the pear can be a little stringy or tough. In the case of these Bartlett pears, they're fine. If you want to remove them, you just take a paring knife down the side, make a little notch, and then pull out that center core. There we go. I've got a nice low simmer. And so I can add my pears to this water to the simple syrup, of course. There we go. Pears want to float. Well, actually, I should say that. Uncooked pears want to float. Once they've had their time to poach and absorb the simple syrup, they'll sink into that syrup. But during the initial stages of cooking, because you're going to want to poach these for about 20 minutes on a very low heat, barely having bubbles break the surface. If I were to just put this pan on the heat like this, you can see how the pears are breaking through the surface of the liquid, the flat sides above the liquid, you're going to have an unevenly cooked pear. So what you need to do is create this high-tech gadget called a cartouche. So it's just simply a piece of parchment paper cut to fit inside the pan. I was taught to cut a hole in the center, so that way any liquid that might bubble up kind of bubbles up and over and keeps the parchment paper weighted down. Now with this, as the liquid is gently lifting and moving over the pears, it hits the surface of the parchment, goes over the pear that may not be submerged, and then it fully cooks it all the way around. For extra insurance, if you want, you can take a plate, and then that just ensures the pears are fully weighted down. So I always set my timer a little before the 20-minute mark, and I check with a paring knife or a bamboo skewer when it inserts easily. It's like checking the doneness of a cake. When it inserts easily and comes out clean, you know that pear is cooked all the way through. Then you set it aside to cool, and you want to store it in its syrup. The reason I add the lemon juice to the pear liquid is because pears are very low in acidity, which is why you don't typically see them just cooked into desserts. Poaching a pear makes it easy to work with, include it in desserts, and you can control the flavor. I'm gonna let these pears cook, and then I'll be back once everything's cooled and set and we can assemble our beautiful dessert. There we go. Now, you can tell when your pears are done because they take on this translucent look. And I hold them in the syrup. These will hold in their syrup for a good week in the fridge. And the acidity helps to preserve them, but that flavor will just build and build and build. It's fantastic. So just as a recap, for Poires Belle Hélène, you want poached pear, a crème anglaise, a chocolate element, in this case it's going to be chocolate crémeux, and some toasted almonds to sprinkle on top. So I've got all of that ready. Let's assemble the dessert. First thing I want to do is actually drain my pears a little bit. Put them on a towel or napkin if you wish. I just don't want those excess juices swirling in with the crème anglaise at the wrong place and time. Okay, so now I've got my crème anglaise. And just to show you its consistency, once it's thick, it's beautifully rich and luscious. You serve it ice cold. What's nice about this dessert, in addition to its make-ahead component, is it just by its nature happens to be gluten-free too. Another famous dessert made using crème anglaise is île flottante, poached whipped meringue, and it's poached in milk, and then you make a crème anglaise with that milk, and it is so simple again, but delicious. Let me know if you'd like to see my version of île flottante, and I'll prepare it for you. Okay, and I think before I put the pears in place, I'm gonna work on my quenelles. So I'll just slide this out of the way so you can see. Here is my chocolate crema. When it comes to shaping a quenelle, there are two styles. The Rocher style means you take a single spoon and sort of swoosh it over the cremeux or mousse or ice cream to scoop it. I'll admit, it takes a lot of practice. And if you're really good at it, you've practiced a lot, or you work in a restaurant and you scoop 100 of these every night. I'm going to use the 2-spoon method that I was taught in cooking school, and it achieves a similar shape. So in my talking, my spoons have actually cooled down. You don't want to warm your spoons in warm water so much that you're going to melt the cremeux. You just want it to be able to flow easily off the spoon. After you've dipped it in the warm water, you wipe off your spoon and then take a nice portion. And then what I like to do is go back and forth, and we're creating that egg shape. This style of quenelle can have some angles to it, typically 3-sided, like so, but you get the sense of the creaminess. And then slide it onto the plate. Beautiful. That is a perfect portion size because the crema is so rich. You won't want, well, maybe you might want a little extra of it. And now we'll just arrange the pears on the plate and a little sprinkling of sliced almonds on top. Just like so. Complex without being overly complicated because you've got the tender poached pear, you've got that creamy creme anglaise with the full vanilla flavor, and this silky chocolate crema. It's no wonder it is a favorite on bistro menus. And now you can make this recipe your own. Please switch up the flavors, especially with the poached pear. You can add flavorings like tea to your creme anglaise. I've even made creme anglaise using bay leaf. Typically you think of that associated with chicken soup or stew, but it adds a beautiful floral component. You could add citrus peel to your creme anglaise to give it a citrus flavor. Whatever you do with this recipe, make it your own, make it special, and I hope you'll enjoy trying to make Poires Belle Hélène. I'll see you again for another delicious recipe. Who am I kidding? I want the crema. Here we go, a little pear, a little custard. Oh, it's so silky. Bye, everyone.